Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Lori. It's good to see all of you. Thanks for your patience. Glad to be here. This is Ask Dr. Lori Live. That's right. I'm live, and you can ask any questions about any topic. I'm answering them. But the big thing everybody wants to know, is it valuable? I have this, Dr. Lori. I have that, Dr. Lori. Is it valuable? Is it valuable? And make sure that your questions relate to our information that everybody might want. Not something that only relates to one little aspect of one little object that only you have. But any question, I'm happy to field them all. And thanks for your patience tonight. Does American Brilliant Cut glass ever have a pink cast or undertone? Yes. It also has a purplish cast or undertone, and sometimes it also may have a silver or gray cast or undertone. And people are surprised by this, but typically glass can have other colors. Now, you've seen colored glass. Colored glass relates to what might be mixed in with the glass in order to make a color. For example, you can mix gold in with glass to make red glass, right? So different actual minerals, different chemical reactions will make a colored glass. But what you're asking is, you have a piece of American Brilliant Cut glass and it's colorless. Does it have a cast of another color? Oftentimes, yes. Sometimes people don't realize that cast is coming as a reflection from an outside window, if you have it near a window, or from something else in your room. But if you have it actually in natural light and there's nothing else around reflecting from it, you might see purple, you might see gray, you might see pink. So yes, it can. And it still is American Brilliant Cut glass or American Brilliant Cut crystal, depending on what you have. Remember, on the videos, I teach you, how do you tell which is which? What are some of the tips for which is which? And all you have to do is search the YouTube channel. There's a search bar right there on the YouTube channel. It just says search American Brilliant Cut Crystal. And in the Dr. Lori YouTube videos, you'll find it. So that's the way to go. Easiest thing to do. So thanks for that great question. Does anyone here take the classes? I was hoping to get signed up for one or two. A lot of people take the classes. They are usually filled up. So I suggest that you register at drloriv.com/events and do it soon so you can get your spot. And it's very easy. Just scroll down the calendar and you'll see the classes. The classes, of course, classes with appraisals. And you have to select an appraisal if you're going to register for that class, if you want an appraisal. Some people just like to listen and just like to be part of the class. And the selling classes are also available there. And they are 4 different selling classes. And you could choose number 4 before number 2, 3 before number 1. It doesn't matter. But I am starting a new session of the 4 coming up soon. So if you like to go in order, which doesn't really matter, you can do that. But register there and get in, because I don't want you to miss your spot. Is Eisenberg Original brooches still? Yes, Eisenberg Original brooches are still popular. Brooches in general, brooches are big, pins are puny. You've heard me say this. Brooches are bigger, right? Are very popular. Now, again, we're seeing the movement in the market mainly because of the state of the economy and the time of year. So people are saying, well, what do you mean the time of year? Why does it matter? It does matter. People tend to buy and sell things at different times of the year at different rates, right? So people are much more interested in buying jewelry, for example, toward the end of the year, near holiday time, and the beginning of the next year. Yes, thank you for the super chats and the super stickers. They are open and you can contribute in that way if you like. I appreciate everybody who supports to keep my staff going and to keep these videos being made. It is a very expensive undertaking, but we're happy to do it. We appreciate your support. Watching and sharing is supporting too. But yes, you can give a super chat or super sticker here tonight. Thank you very much about the classes. I want you to get this because, as you've seen with the Real Bargains, with the Thrift With Me videos, with all of the different information that I give, I'm helping you to be able to build good collections and make a lot of money if you want to resell items. Even if you don't want to resell them now, if you want to resell them later on, you could know what quality looks like and how to identify it. And that's what this channel is all about. And a lot of fun it is too. You guys are a great community. It's great to be with you. What can you tell us about Fong Chow Glidden Pottery? I can tell you a lot about it. In fact, the Alfred, New York-based pottery firm of Glidden, named for Glidden Parker, had a designer named Fong Chow. And I talked about this in my Glidden video, and I talked about it pretty extensively, which Glidden pieces are more valuable. I didn't see the other half of that question. I have a blue striped vase about 5 I guess that means 5.5 inches. But yeah, can be very valuable. I talk about the values, I talk about the market, and I talk about what to look for on those videos. You got to watch the videos, people. It's not difficult. Watch the videos. But Glidden Parker, very popular in the 1950s. And I oftentimes mention how even Lucille Ball collected Glidden. So a lot of people of the 1950s, starlets in Hollywood, collected Glidden, a very typical mid-century modern pottery design. So yeah. Certainly valuable and very easy to recognize as well, not only for the mark, but also for the style. Is there any value to Plymouth Pottery Sparrow House? Yes, people do collect it. I do see people who are trading it pretty low right now. So that always tells me that the market basically is sort of poo-pooing something. They poo-poo that and they poo-poo Princess House all the time, which are two different types of things, but Princess House comes to mind. And they really shouldn't, because they're relatively nice collectibles, and there are a lot of people who do collect them. You know, you have a lot of people out there who are doing this. Oh, nobody collects that anymore. Nobody collects that anymore. I will tell you, just about a half an hour ago, I was looking at social media, and then I want to make a point about social media. And there was someone who was very young who was collecting teacups and saucers. She said, I don't think anybody collects these anymore, but I still love collecting them. And I can't tell you how many people just piled on, said, I collect them, I collect them, I collect them. Please don't get these things in your head from people who are trying to inflate or deflate a market, right? That something isn't collectible or something isn't popular or something isn't valuable. You know, that's really not the case at all for a lot of things. And social media, my point about other social media, I want to thank those of you who came to my aid and supported me with a social media, with some of the social media comments, trying to, of course, help someone who had misinformation. A lot of you got on there and said, no, that's not right. We want to explain what Dr. Lori does. Got onto social media and made your comments known. Sometimes it's folks who are just trying to give misinformation, like, oh, I thought it was like this, when they know darn well that's not the case. Or people who are really misinformed and they don't mean anything by it. They don't have any agenda. So thank you to those of you who are trying to get the correct word out, as I am, whether it's on my social media or others. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And Lori, thank you very much for the super sticker. Every bit counts. It helps. It helps us to continue the mission, and it helps me to continue to do what I can to help you guys learn what you've got, learn what it's really worth, and identify pieces properly. You know, I had one person who said to me, I can't find anything like, she was submitting to a online appraisal request. She sent a photo to my website, and she said, I can't find anything like it online. Okay, so you can't find anything like it online. What if you did find something like it online? Would you know if the person who posted that or listed that was correct? A lot of times it's not the case. A lot of times you're actually following someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate that very much. It's always great to have you guys in class. And you guys contribute to the class too. So many people will say to me, hey, you know what? I learned a lot from the class. I learned a lot just learning what other people have done, learning how they've decided to be a reseller, learning how they decided to build their collection or liquidate their collection, or how they downsize some of their tips too. So we have a great community and we're lucky for it. Thank you, David. Big part of it. So that's what we're seeing here. Can you please talk about the stuff you have on the table? Any particular reason why these pieces? No particular reason. The studio staff basically puts out different things. So I particularly like certain objects. One of the pieces on my table is this Carl mug, and maybe a lot of you heard the story of when I was actually visiting Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and it was on social media. And if you didn't hear the story, it's there on social media. You can read about it. You can see the video about it. That mug was a big surprise. And then I got a big surprise after the fact. And the folks in the store where I saw it actually sent it to me when they heard what the story was about it. I was really touched by it. Hummel figurines, a lot of people have Hummel figurines. So they're out here because a lot of people make a lot of mistakes with valuing Hummel figurines. So it's a lot about the mark. It's a lot about the figure. And I have a video about that too. So again, you can search for Hummels and you can find out, are they really worth anything? And which ones are worth something? And how much is that? So answering that question, is it valuable? And I'm taking your questions, any of them. Is there any value in glassware made in the area and style of Murano, Italy? Okay. So you have Murano pieces. You all know that Murano, the glass that is made on the island of Murano, that is marked Murano, that is made by the glass makers who have been there since the 1200s. That's right, AD. Those particular people, those pieces are very valuable. We know that. And they're clearly marked. We also know that there are many, many, many copycats. There are copycats in other parts of Italy. There are copycats in Poland. There are copycats in Czechoslovakia. There are copycats in Russia. There are copycats in China. There are copycats of Murano everywhere. America, everywhere. So a couple of different things. There are people who just say, oh, yes, I am doing this, making glass in the style of Murano. And then there are people who are basically not telling you that it's in the style of Murano and want you to believe that it's true Murano because then it'll cost more, right? Price goes up. There's also labels and information that relate to something called Vitri Murano, which basically means in the style of Murano, because Murano has a basic, there's a rule that you can't just say something's Murano if it's not. It's also like the situation with Native American made objects, crafts, and other artisan made works by the Native Americans will have a mark or a label that say, this is from the First Peoples of Canada, or this is made by a Native American, whether it's in the Southwest or the Great Plains or the Pacific Northwest. So it's very important when you see Murano and Murano style. There's a big difference between Murano and Murano style. You know, I've been known to say, you know, I'm Sports Illustrated swimsuit model style, but I'm not a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. You got all the same parts as those girls, but I'm not those girls. There's a difference, right? That's the same thing with this idea of in the Murano style or actual Murano. So if there's a mark, if there's a label, protect it if you see these pieces, because that's going to mean a lot more value. So, Pastor, how are you? It's nice to see you. Thank you for everything. It's great to see you. Excuse me. I don't know. Are you guys fighting with allergies? I'm fighting with allergies this week. Thank you very much for the super chats and the super stickers. It helps tremendously. Thank you for your generous super sticker, Laura. I appreciate that too. I have heard of Willie Singleton Pottery. Yes. And I will say that it had a very great push in the early years of the 2000s, and I haven't seen the same market interest currently. I guess that's fair. Excuse me. Pottery is always based on design. It's based on glazes. It's based on what type of ceramic you're using. Is it stoneware? Is it something else? Also, of course, the maker and, of course, condition. Condition is always key. Next question. Anne, are Crown Trifari brooches that have turquoise beads more desirable lately with collectors? More desirable than what? Than Crown Trifari brooches that don't have turquoise beads? Turquoise and turquoise composite, which are composite pieces that are trying to look like turquoise, always have a good interest in the market. Color is extremely key and important for any type of design element. Excuse me. So you will see, of course, a lot of pieces that, while colorful, will be popular. But Crown Trifari is important because it's of high quality, it's good costume jewelry, and it's well made. I don't think that the turquoise pieces are more desirable than every other Crown Trifari piece. I see a lot of interest in Trifari in general. I see a lot of interest in costume jewelry in general. And I do a lot of appraisals for those particular pieces. Thank you, Puppy, for the super sticker. Look at that face. So cute, so cute. I got to spend some time with my extended family dogs on a recent trip. So that was a lot of fun. Hey, Dr. Laura. Hey, are Dubarry Modelle purses collectible? Oh, Mia, you know what? They are collectible. And in general, you will see that purses in general have really taken a huge spike. If they have certain elements, what do you look for? Look for leather, look for beadwork, look for hand details, look for small or very large. The middle-sized purses are not doing that well. They have to be really big. You can fit your house in them, or quite small and diminutive and cool. Don't forget designer names are going to be popular. So if you see a good looking and good condition piece, maybe in a thrift store, pick it up. That's a good question that helps everybody. Mariah, I wanted to say thanks for the video call. We had a video call. Yeah, Mariah, it's nice to see you. McCoy pottery is always desirable. People like it. People like the look, whether it's a cookie jar, whether it's I like the the McCoy bowls, the big one color glazed bowls, McCoy. And then, of course, there's planters. There's a million planters by McCoy, the great American mid-century pottery manufacturer. But McCoy is a very distinctive mark on the bottom. It says McCoy in big letters in script. And those are desirable. People do still look for them. I've seen the market have a little transgression in this particular time. Like it's changed a little bit. But for the most part, yes, I have seen McCoy do pretty well. Thank you, Mary. It's nice to see you. Yeah, it's great to be live tonight. And we've been enjoying it. We were a little tardy, but we got everything fixed up. And there you go. It wasn't our fault. You know, my poor staff has to work, you know, fix everybody's problems. Stacy, thank you for the super sticker. I hope you guys are learning. I hope you guys are sharing. And I hope you guys are having fun with of course, all the videos, and especially when I'm out and about thrift store shopping. If you like them, I want to see it in the comments and tell me where you're listening and watching from. Where are these questions coming from? Are antique Uncas rings worth anything? It depends on the ring, and it depends on what type in terms of material, because I've seen them made in different materials. So if you can give me a little bit more, or if you want to submit a picture to my website for me to review it, of course, I will do that. You can just submit a picture to my website, and right there it just says send photos, get a report. I'll look at the piece. If the piece is not worth the cost of the appraisal, I tell you it's not worth the cost of the appraisal. Don't go any farther. And I certainly don't send a payment link in that case. So there you go. People go, oh no, it's $1 million for her to look at anything. No, it's not. Don't be ridiculous. So anyway, I do charge for services. I'm not going to lie to you. I do charge for services. I have to. I have to pay bills. I have to pay staff. I have to eat. I don't have to eat as much, but I have to eat. Anyway, but for having said that, yes, I will look at the piece. If it's not worth the cost of the appraisal, if you're just going down the road to find out that the thing is not worth what the appraisal is going to cost, I'm going to tell you don't bother. You know, I'm not going to waste your time or money or my time. So there you go. That should clear that up. Super sticker, thank you so much. You're so sweet. I do appreciate all the super chats and super stickers. You got to think of all the folks who are answering your emails and your questions. Thank you, Lori. And all of you longtime supporters and watchers of the channel who still enjoy it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Deb. That's great. And a lot of you, of course, are doing your own thing on your own channels. But I want to make sure that you're here getting the right information so you can give out the right information too. So thanks so much for that. What's the difference between Vaseline glass and uranium glass? Okay. Uranium glass, Vaseline glass has had this particular name because it was easier to identify when, of course, this particular material was put together. So you can add things to glass, right? And you could call it Vaseline glass or uranium glass. They're two different types of glasses because they use different amounts of a particular material, okay? So people will say, well, that's uranium glass, not Vaseline glass, and that would be true. Most people just have this one umbrella term and they call everything Vaseline glass. But there are specifics, scientific specifics that relate to why one is Vaseline glass and why one is uranium glass. So there is a difference. The other thing about these types of glasses, people love the black light. You know, I have on my shopping page about my recommended products. And yes, I get a compensation when you buy something through the shopping page on our website. But the black light is something that a lot of you like to use. I don't like to overuse it, but I really think it's very helpful if you're trying to understand what's uranium glass, what's going to fluoresce in Vaseline glass, or if you have a painting, for example, that might have in painting or under painting on it. The black light will have you show that right up. So you just put the black light on it and all of a sudden you'll see it. And I want you to understand those types of things because that relates to condition, which relates directly to value. So good question. Thank you. Hi, Kate. I found a chair from Barbara Darcy's signature Bloomingdale's collection covered in vintage 1960s Puki fabric. I ordered Barbara's book and found a picture of the exact chair styled in one of her model rooms. Any ideas on value? I have to see the chair. So send a picture to the website and I'll take a look. Because the fabric has been changed, because it's been reupholstered, that may or may not impact value depending on how good was the upholstery job, how close was the fabric to what we should see in that style chair, right? Like, for example, Am I going to look at that chair and say, oh yeah, that's a 1980s fabric on a 1940s chair, right? And if I can do that, then others who are experts can look at it and say the same thing, and value is going to go down. So I need to see how they reupholstered it, and I need to see whether or not that's going to be maintain the value. But I have to see it. So in order to go, it's worth this, it's worth that. Again, it's great if it's in the books, but I have to say that the books now are becoming, because we have the internet and videos and everything else, we're not only seeing those types of books be the only end all be all. Vaseline glass may or may not be more yellow. That's a big generalization. You got to go easy on this. Everyone says it looks kind of a yellow green and that's Vaseline glass, or it looks like a yellow green and that's uranium glass. It depends on the piece. It also depends on the manufacturer, because they're going to decide how it's going to be actually produced. So I don't want to say, oh yes, it's going to be more yellow. More yellow than what, right? And I don't like these generalizations. So be careful with that. Is there a yellow tint to it? There could be, but it depends. So I don't want to say yes, and then you go, oh, yeah, no. Jeremy, thank you very much for the super chat and the super sticker. For those of you who want me to, of course, tell the story of the Carl mug, so you don't want to go through social media and look for it, I'll do that, but we have to see some more super chats or super stickers. Let's see if we can do this. Rasha, Dr. Rasha, thank you very much for your support. I guess Dr. Rasha wants to hear the story about the Carl mug. So thank you very much. George, steel jewelry pieces. Are you talking bracelets, necklaces, earrings, which? And then we can talk about how you identify which is which. A lot of them are unmarked. I know you all love marks, but I want you to look for the quality of the materials, because then you'll know whether you should even bother searching for a mark. So we need to know a little bit more specifics for it. Or you can send me a piece and say, I don't know. I think this is a George Steele piece. I'm not sure. So you might want to take a look at that or send a piece in. So anyway, that's what we're going to look at. So I want to hear, where are you calling from? Where are you watching from? What questions do you have? And if you want to hear about the Carl mug story, maybe you don't. All right. I had a very, very busy week already, even though it's only Wednesday. I had a very busy week. A lot of interviews, a lot of appearances, a lot of information about what's coming up with respect to new shows and such. Durham, Connecticut. I was in Connecticut a couple weeks ago. Beautiful, but very, very nice, but kind of traffic. A lot of traffic I ran into in New England. And but I love Connecticut. It's always beautiful. I have to say that I didn't. Is craft pottery valuable? Lynn, what do you mean by craft pottery? North Florida is great, like Jacksonville and such, that part of North Florida, or St. Augustine up there. Craft pottery made by crafters, or studio art pottery. Is that what you mean? If that's what you mean, yes, can be valuable. Depends on the studio art potter. So. Glad a special team. I had a special item appraised by Dr. Lori. Very happy. Great. I'm so happy, Randy. That's great. Thanks for doing the appraisal. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for answering my McCoy. Yeah, you're welcome. You're very welcome. I appreciate the thanks. Anything you can do to support the channel, that's share it, watch it, or such. Hamden, good old Hamden. That's right. Hamden's a busy, fun place too, right near New Haven, right there along Whitney Avenue in New Haven. And Christy, thank you so much for the super chat and super stickers. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the time that you guys share. People say, she doesn't have to thank you. She doesn't have to thank you. My mother is in heaven going, she has to thank everybody. So I got to thank you. Can you please tell me what style of rocking chair has paw arms and the back is like a Windsor chair with no arch top? Okay, so a Windsor chair typically has spindles, right? And no arch, so it doesn't arch across the top. It's straight across the top. And paw arms, like it scrolls over, but it actually has paws like an animal. It's unusual that you'd see a spindle back with a paw arm. And the reason for that is the paw arms are the animal arms. And you're talking about where the hands rest, right? That terminates in a paw. If that's the case, paw terminus, it's called a paw terminus is what it's called. And it's a fancy art history name for it. A paw terminus on the handles of an armchair are typically, if it just scrolls under, but it's not an actual paw, it doesn't look like an animal, A scroll is very typical of the classical look of a Windsor chair. So you could have a Windsor chair if it's not a paw, if it just scrolls under, makes one little curve. But if it's an actual paw, then you have what's considered a subset. A subset or a sub-style in the history of decorative arts means they've united two different things from two different time periods. Because the paw element is usually one that you see in the Chippendale or the late 18th, early 19th century styles of chair making. And the spindle back or the Windsor back is back in the 18th century, like 1750 to about 1800. So if you've united the two of them, you probably have a later chair. But if you send me a picture, I'll be able to identify it. The fact that it doesn't have that curve on the top is not bad for value. Thank you very much for the super chat and super sticker. But that's a good question. And what I like about that question is she's trying to use the vocabulary to describe it. And that's going to be important. Berks County, good old Reading, Pennsylvania. That's good. And Kutztown. Are they Berks? I guess they're Berks County, right? Where the university is. So that's great. Watching from Nova Scotia. Oh, my friends on Oak Island. Yay, Nova Scotia. Are broken pieces that have been glued back together still valuable, or are they pretty much worthless? I have seen people collect very, very rare pieces that have been restored, which means broken and glued back together professionally. I've seen those pieces in my museum career. They've been in museums, and I have seen them sell for some significant value. What comes to mind, first of all, are some of the very old ancient Chinese pieces from the Ming or the Qing dynasty that have been damaged and restored. I've also seen some early English pieces that have been damaged and restored, and they still sell for a pretty penny. So it depends on what your piece is. If you start out with a piece of junk and then you glue together back that piece of junk, it's probably not going to be all that valuable. But again, that's a generalization. So I don't like to do that. I like you to say, well, here's the piece, Dr. Lori, what do you think? And then I'll give you my assessment based on the quality of the item in the first place. But don't just poo-poo it just because it could be damaged. Again, it depends on how damaged too. So oyster plates. I talk a lot about oyster plates in the videos, Jeremy, and oyster plates can be extremely desirable and popular. I don't know if you know, but there's a woman named Paula Dean who's a very well-known chef. And she's from Savannah. I never get this right. She's from Charleston or Savannah. I think she's from Savannah. And she collected oyster plates and made, a lot of people aware of oyster plates. Beautiful wells, hand-painted Limoges oyster plates with, of course, the wells for the oysters molded into the actual plate. Usually a central well for a cocktail sauce or for a clam if you wanted to have oysters and clams, or for the lemon to be in the center. And they usually have a very evident mark. And if they don't have a mark, you can identify them by their shape because certain manufacturers only worked with certain shapes of oyster plates. They can be upwards, more than $500, upwards to $1,000 for one oyster plate of porcelain. Some are hand-painted. Some are, of course, hand glazed. They're beautifully sculpted. They date middle to late 19th century all the way up to yesterday. Oyster plates are still very desirable. So if you see them, pick them up. Pastor Bridget, any information on Chicago cotton pump organs? Yes, actually, here's the thing about pump organs in general. So pump organs are beautiful. A lot of people look for them. And a lot of people, of course, will look for some of the more popular designs. You'll find them in churches. You'll find them in families of missionaries often. You'll also find them, in schools and other civic or public institutions. Pump organs can be valuable for their ivory of the keys, for the ebony of the keys. They also can be valuable for the box or the body. Some of them are late 19th century, and they are carved in wood in the East Lake style, which is the late Victorian style. Some people don't care about the organ at all. Some people will take that out. They'll repurpose it without violating the wood and make something cool out of it, like a bookshelf or a coffee cart, that kind of thing, or a bar. A lot of people, I've seen them do that with pump organs. If your pump organ works, it's more valuable than if it doesn't, right? And the other thing about them is make sure that they are away from doors or windows or vents. Musical instruments do not like what comes out of a vent, or even if it's nice, cool, air-conditioned air, they don't like it. So you want to make sure that it's on a wall with no windows, no doorways, and no vents. That's one of the things. Depending on condition, they can range in value between $850 and $3,500, depending on which one. Are all real pearls always on a white rope? Well, that's a good question. No. I have a strand of pink pearls that are not on a white rope, and they are real. Yep. And black pearls are usually not on a white rope either. And what you're calling a rope is actually a silk strand. They're actually silk threads. So, yeah, all real pearls. Now, if they're white cultured pearls, they have more of a white tint. They may be on white silk rather than on a different color, but typically they go by the color of the actual pearl. And pearls can come in many different colors and tonalities and variations of color. Search the channel because I talk a lot of videos about identifying pearls and how to do it. And many of you in the video calls who have booked video calls with me to get appraisals have said, Dr. Lori, I watched the pearl videos. Now I get it. You know, I understand why you're saying don't rub it against your teeth because that's terrible for your teeth and for the pearls. You know, don't put anything in your mouth to test it. Not a good idea ever. So, but yeah, search the channel. You'll find all the pearl videos. My Carl Cup has a great story. I did come to Minnesota and it was so much fun in Minnesota, and I'm traveling again all over as I always have, and I'm enjoying it, of course. But the Carl mug was a great story, but I guess you'll have to find it on social media. All right, let's see what else we've got. Other questions? South Shore, Massachusetts. Oh, sure. Sure. You deleted all of your social media? Okay. Then I'll have to tell the Carl story because she deleted all her social media. Was that a thing? You decided I'm getting rid of all the social media. I've had it. Whoever doesn't get in touch with me doesn't get in touch with me. You know, your 15th removed cousin just is going to have to figure out what you're doing some other way. Can you explain the story of Blue Willow? Am I correct that many companies made this? Okay. Can you explain the story of Blue Willow? And am I correct that many companies made dishes in this pattern? Any more desirable than others? Yes, many companies made what we know of as Blue Willow. Blue Willow was manufactured by many of the English transferware companies in Stoke-on-Trent and other areas of Staffordshire, that region of course, England. Blue Willow is a very popular blue-white patterned transferware ceramic. And I will do a video on this because I think a lot of you would appreciate it. Transferware ceramic that highlights Asian landscape imagery, and they basically will produce all different types of china sets for it. It goes back to the time period where not only Canton ware, but other images of Asia were very popular. For example, Martha Washington collected Canton ware because of the blue-white contrast. She thought it was very lovely on her table. And interestingly enough, that along with Blue Willow, which was a transferware type of ceramic, highlighted that blue and white contrast. It's one of the reasons why blue and white is so popular. But Blue Willow is made by different manufacturers. It's made different quality standards. So some of them are junk and some of them are gorgeous. And Blue Willow is very popular. And it came back in popularity in the early years of the 1900s. And also in the late 1800s, and also all the way back in the late 1700s. And today we're seeing Blue Willow pop up again and again. So yes, different companies make it, and it almost always will have a Asian-inspired landscape, like something, with a pagoda and maybe some, cherry blossom trees, that kind of thing. Very popular, very popular. So. How do you identify Murano glass beads? The same way you identify Murano glass. Go to the channel, search for Murano, and learn how to tell the difference between a piece of Murano glass and a piece of any other glass, because there are a lot of fakes out there. Murano glass beads are faked too. Some of them are made in Murano. I've shown you those on the videos because I have some of those. We've had some of those in the studio. So basically, you want to take a look at that. It depends on the millefeuille, that's the rods that are actually used in the glass blowing of the individual beads. And then, of course, the size of the beads, the shape of the beads, and which colors are used in the beads. There's a lot to identifying correct Murano. Just because it might look like Murano, there are a lot of people who are faking it, so you want to think about it. I want to hear the mug story from Minnesota. Okay, well, I've got to do some more super chats and super stickers if you want to hear the mug story. The mug story is pretty good. I've got an itch now. Okay. Other questions. Do you think Beanie Babies will be more valuable now that there's a new movie out about them? I was interviewed about this with Market Watch, and I've been interviewed a lot because I'm an expert with respect to Beanie Babies. The movies, and anytime that there is, of course, a press push, anything in the press that pushes a particular type of collectible, yes, you will see an increase in their value. Remember that the market is very, very active with them right now and has been since the end of the COVID pandemic. So we've seen that happen. So you can bet, very similar to the Barbie movie, but not on such a broad scale. We've seen a lot of increase in, of course, Barbies, their values, Barbie appraisals, and such since then. So you want to think about that too. Blue Aster, Copeland and Sons, Stoke-on-Trent. Yes, Kathy, I know of Blue Aster, the pattern. Copeland and Sons, which is the manufacturer, they come out of Stoke-on-Trent in England. Do you have a question about this? Are they valuable? Do you have a whole set? Sure, it's valuable if you have a whole set. It's valuable if you just have one piece. Depends on what you have. I'm creating your question because you didn't give me all of it, but thank you for the question either way. Stoke-on-Trent is an interesting type of discussion about Staffordshire or English ceramics. A lot of people like China. And people say nobody cares about China. That's not true either. A lot of people like China. David, thank you for the super chat and super sticker. So there you go. You love my necklace. My necklace is made of African beads. They are glass beads from Africa. And actually, I'm the person who put them on the little chain. Just put them on the little string. A friend of mine was making beads, and I said, I can't do that. She said, of course you can do that. What do you mean you can't do that? I said, I'm not crafty. I can't do this stuff. And so we actually did a FaceTime for a couple minutes, and she showed me how to do it. So it's very, very long, and that's what this is. They're from West Africa, and they're just little glass beads. They're probably quite inexpensive if you're there in Africa. But again, I had them in a bag for a long, long time, and I never did anything with them. And I said, I can't keep these things around if I'm not going to do something with them. So I made a necklace. There you go. Thank you for asking. I see Satsuma made in China and Japan. Is it valuable from Japan? Satsuma is valuable in general. People do like to collect it. It's much more commonly made in China. Yes, I have seen some examples made in Japan. The ones that are made in Japan usually are highlighting geisha, the images of the learned, scholared arts, women of the arts that are oftentimes shown on Satsuma. The Chinese pieces usually are showing more figures of scholars. Most of them have moriage, so you can feel the wet slipware right on the texture, and also a very golden tone cast to the ceramic. The Japanese pieces are usually a little bit higher priced than the Chinese pieces, but it depends on the piece. You can have a Japanese piece that's this big and a Chinese piece that's this big. Of course, the Chinese piece will probably be bigger probably be more valuable just because of size. I hope that helps. Questions. Thanks for all your questions, and thanks for telling me where you are. I like to know where you are, and I like to know who's watching. I hope you're sharing the channel and telling your friends about it. I know a lot of you are doing that because a lot of people are saying, my sister told me about you. I didn't realize this. Oh my gosh, now we're addicted. We watch all the time. So it's really a lot of fun to have you guys sharing and learning more, of course, from the channel and seeing what's what. I guess I need to tell you the Carl story, but I want you to go to my social media for those of you who can, so you can see the video, because the video is really kind of cool to see that. I was on Cape Cod. I'll make this brief. I was on Cape Cod. We had summered there as children for a very long time. My father loved Cape Cod very, very much, and I was shopping, and I was going around and doing some shopping, and I walked into a particular store not far from where we oftentimes summered, And my father passed in 2016. And I walked into this store. It was the first store that I walked into. And this mug was sitting on the shelf. And plain as day, it said Carl. Carl was my father's name. And I thought, oh my gosh, I do believe in signs. I know no reason why I shouldn't. I don't know. I'm not a psychic. I don't know anything about that world. I think it's very interesting, but I do believe that it was a sign. It was very interesting. And, you know, I didn't purchase the piece. I went on to my social media and I said, I saw this. I believe in signs. I wanted to share it all with you. That I saw it. It made me feel so good, like as if my dad was with me in a place that we had so much fun for so many years. I'm going to tear up. And so I took a picture of the piece, but I didn't purchase it. I don't do that. So I left it there. And a couple of days later, the people from that particular store said, we saw your social media post, Dr. Lori. We were so happy to meet you. We wanted you to have that mug. We think it relates to you and your dad. So we're going to send it to you. And they did. So hence, it's been sitting here in a place of honor on my studio table for a couple of weeks now since I received it. They found the office address. They shipped it. They packed it. They got it. They bought it. You know, they had to pay the store for it, I guess. And here it is for me. It was a very sweet thing. It was a wonderful thing for me. And it was wonderful of them up in Brewster, Massachusetts. It was really wonderful of them to do that. I can't thank them enough. But thank you for asking and thank you for supporting the channel and making that possible. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the super chats and the super stickers because it helps our staff. My staff works very hard. They answer questions. They, of course, keep everything running. Enjoying listening to someone I'm very passionate. I'm very lucky to do my life's work. Thank you so much for that. And the Carl story is a good one. I told you I was going to cry. Anyway, so, but really very wonderful. It's hard to lose anybody. It's hard to lose a parent. It's hard to lose children. It's hard to lose siblings. It's hard to lose pets. Losing pets is hard. People don't, always realize that. But I wanted to tell you the story. And besides, somebody just got rid of all their social media, so they have to keep track, right, of what the stories are. But I hope you won't lose our channel, even though you've gotten rid of all of the social media. And again, I'd like you to contribute, and I'd like you to, react and tell me what's going on and be there, whether it's comments here through YouTube or, of course, on the other social media outlets that we use. Instagram or Facebook or whatever you like. So that's great. I'm glad you do. I'm so happy about you enjoying the channel. Is there a certain color or height Viking glass or swung glass more valuable than others? Well, I've seen Viking glass purple and reds do better. Blues, sort of the cooler colors with the exception of red, do better than some of the other colors. I have not seen a big push for the clear pieces of Viking glass at this point. But for the most part, I will say that when it comes to those pieces, you've got to look for form as well as color. Now, glass is a lot about color, don't get me wrong, but form is going to be very important too. But Viking is pretty collectible. People do like it and people do well on it. A lot of my resellers who were teaching how to sell smart, how to engage more viewers, how to get more buyers, how to keep the buyers you've got. I do this in my reselling classes, those 4 reselling classes, how to sell old stuff for profit that I'm doing. I'll tell you, in those classes, it's a lot of conversation about how can you keep that particular buyer who just bought that piece of Viking glass. How can you make them come back and get another piece? So you want to think about that too. Thank you very much. And of course, if the channel is helpful to you and you're learning stuff from it, I want you to show your support. And that could be in many ways. Sure, super chats and super stickers always help. Also, if you want to share a video or watch a video or rewatch a video, you can do it. The easiest way is with the binge link. We've set up the binge link to make it easier for you. So you can just binge watch my videos. If you go to drloriv.com, go right to the specials and shop page, scroll down until you see the big link. And that link, if you cut and paste it and save it, you can just keep going back to that link and it'll show you all the videos that I'm talking about. You're going, I didn't know she had a video on pearls. I didn't know she had a video on Murano. That binge link will help you find it. I'm Dr. Lori. It's great to be with all of you. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for your support in many ways. And I'll see you next time.